What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Shane Vitko podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest. So, just a quick rundown, my new platform now, and I'm getting more recovery related accounts and things coming across my feed now. And maybe a week ago, maybe less, today's guest came across my feed, and it wasn't the normal person talking about sobriety or how grateful they are or how much they've screwed up their life. It was a mom, a single mother of 5, talking about losing her husband, who is also a service member in the United States Army.
Navy.
But I saw that here's a guy that was in the military. I can relate to that. Here's a guy that's not here because of addiction. And here's a grieving widow, mom, someone's daughter, talking about the other side of it and like using her platform to talk about that and speak to other women, anyone for that matter. But mainly her focus is speaking to other women. And it got me thinking of like how many people I have hurt along the way, how many people my choices affected. And I don't feel like that side of it gets talked about enough. It's always the look at me, give me the star because I did so much and changed my life around, but it's never talking to my aunts and my sisters and the people in my life that had to endure me through those years where I was not the best individual. So without further ado, we have Joanna Miranda. She's, like I said, single mom of 5. She is an online health and fitness coach. I'll tag all her stuff in it at the end of the episode, but Joanna, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I am thrilled. Really.
And also, thank you for, this is the first time you've ever done a podcast, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple lives on Instagram. It took me about 3 years to even start sharing our story. I started sharing it in about October, once we kind of hit that 3-year mark. And so I've done a couple Instagram lives, but I've got a couple podcasts after this one, but yours is the first.
Let's jump into this because I got a slew of shit. Like I told you when we first met, I was like, I could spend all day. I have so many questions. Before addiction entered the picture, who was your husband as a man?
You guys would have loved him. He's wonderful. He's just true blue, very protective, obviously, was in the military when I first met him. I was going to college in Hawaii and he was stationed there. So I think anyone that is in the service has a instinct protective family, community, something outside of yourself that's for the most part, I think that's how most service individuals are. And super funny, tall, 6'2", beautiful blue eyes. He is amazing.
So when you guys meet, are there any signs right away that maybe he drinks a lot? Okay.
Yeah.
So how far into the relationship before you start to go, he might a little bit important?
When we first met, he was known for party Mike. Like, I think that like when they did drink together, he was just the one that always took it like even further. And they were having to probably reel him in. I grew up Mormon. I'm not Mormon anymore. I did not I did not even try alcohol until I think I was 24 when I actually met him. It's not his fault. I'm just saying that like, that I didn't have any experience with alcohol. Truly. Like I didn't know how much was too much. I didn't know how often you should drink it. I didn't know I didn't know anything about that. But I did absolutely, that was present when we first met. But it was in the context of fun, and we're letting loose, and we're here on deployment, and we're partying, and like so that was my first experience.
And I also feel like if you aren't privy to kind of what alcoholism looks like and stuff, you're thinking exactly what you just said of like, okay, I mean, you like to
No
party,
idea.
you like to let loose,
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. That's the
Um,
reason that people are drinking, is to just have fun, let loose. And why would you ever question that, really?
so now how far into you guys meet and then decide to get married and then within?
We were married within 2 years, and had moved from Hawaii back to Utah. He took a station here for a brief, just like a year, and we got married and then continued our adventures all over the world. Yeah, so 2 years.
Okay.
We were dating and engaged and then married within 2 years.
When did survival become the priority?
Um, Probably not until uh, I didn't recognize anything in Utah that first year. because my family's from Utah, and so I just don't think that there were a lot of signs. I don't know, I actually don't even know if he was drinking that much. We moved to Guam, but he spent a lot of time on deployments. We were married for 16 years, and I have gone back and added up all the years that we were separated in that 16 years. It was about 8 years total. Deployments are I spent a lot of time mothering and taking care of my kids alone
And
in
were there
deployments.
times that you guys were while he was on deployment, did you have family close by? Did you have anyone?
No.
Or was it just you and
No,
the kids?
we lived in Guam, and then we moved
Right.
to Florida, and then we moved back to Hawaii, and then we moved to Spain, so a lot of the time, I was absolutely isolated and without family.
Was there anything that military life, a military wife gave you that civilian life couldn't replace?
I miss my military family. I miss that community. Um, after Mike passed away, I just we were 7 months away from retiring when he died. 7 months. We'd
I think
done
I think
21
that's
years.
I think that's ano it's,
So frustrating.
yeah, I think that's another thing too, though, is that a lot of times it's the men that get out of the military and it's like, "Oh, now what do I do? What am I gonna do for
Oh,
work?"
yeah.
But it's also, I mean, that's where the kids are used to playing. The wife
Mhm.
knows all the other wives, and it really is an adjustment for everybody.
I will say that I felt like I've done a lot more research trying to understand addiction after all of this because when you're in it, you're just trying to understand your situation. You're not really trying to like how do you keep your head above water and keep everything together. But I do think that addiction really does stem from this avoidance of connection and these honest conversations, and I do feel like the closer we got to retirement, the more anxiety I watched him have, which was, he did stuff within he changed jobs a lot within the military, but his last job, he was working with, like, cybersecurity. There's a lot of jobs within that, but I noticed he had a lot of anxiety the closer we got to, retirement, and I noticed that the older as our kids began to get older, I watched him pull away more because it's pretty simple to hold a brand new baby and to be able to just love on someone that doesn't you don't have to have conversations with. And I really feel like as my children started to get older, I watched my husband almost try to he probably felt like he had to hide more, um, don't connect more because we were all starting to recognize that there's something very wrong. And I do feel like those 2 things were a big red flag over time.
At what point did love stop feeling safe and start feeling strategic?
Oh god. I would probably say in Florida, I guess then at that time we would have been married for maybe 6 years maybe, and I just had, or was pregnant with my 3rd child, Rocky. So I had Navy, Eli, and I was pregnant with my 3rd child, Rocky. We'd been stationed in Florida, but we were stationed at Hill Air Force Base, or sorry, not Hill Air Force Base, that's in Utah, Eglin Air Force Base. And so my husband's command was kind of under the branch of the Air Force, but he wasn't in the Navy side, he was like on the Air Force side. So we were happy to not have to do deployments. And I don't know if he just needed to just relax more or felt like he didn't have to go deploy. And so the military is hard.
Yeah.
And if you're whoever does watch this and you are a military wife or an active duty member, like it puts in another element of stress of life as well.
Well,
And I do feel like that's probably when things really started feeling very stressful.
I got to imagine too, I have a lot of friends that were special operations guys and stuff, and you especially if you already have underlying addiction issues or
Yeah.
whatever, that is just one more thing to be addicted to is these
Yeah.
deployments, the chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane as it is, it's the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the action, and
Mhm.
so I'm thinking about putting myself in his position too of like that all comes to an end and now what? I'm a Walmart greeter, you know?
Right.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
where do I still continue to find that? And I feel like, I don't know that the military does the best job at this, a lot like coming out of prison too, where there is kind of this transition period of adapting to life. It's kind of like, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
We're done with you. you
Well,
know?
and I agree with that because I remember like he would, he was trying to get his degree. He was able to get like his associate's degree and trying to like, do these things, but it's always interrupted by deployments and then you're moving and it's like it's this constant recycling of just life. Like things are just moving so fast and you really don't have a chance to even like catch your breath to like to make those transitions. And I do know the military has, a lot of programs and they do have that, but it's really hard to find the time within all of that to make those transitions. It really is. That and if I mean that was our experience.
Yeah, and again, it's the same thing of like, there's so much stimulation, there's so
Oh,
much going on,
so much
and
stimulation. That's
just
a great word for it.
try to figure out how I that was one of the
Yeah.
main things that I struggled with in sobriety was like, I felt like, this FOMO of like, I need this more stimulation. What do you
Mhm.
mean we just like sit around and hang out and read a book? That's crazy, like, where's the stimulation? And it's like, you have
Yeah.
start to learn that, and I feel like also that it's because I wasn't okay inside, and the less okay I am inside, the way harder it is for me
Yeah.
to sit there and just go, "Yeah, I'm content just sitting here," because now
Yeah.
I'm stuck in between my 2 ears
Yes.
and
Yeah.
everything that's going around my brain, and for me,
Mhm.
that fix was drugs or alcohol. Now I don't have to
Yeah.
think, I don't have to feel.
Yeah. I can
Um,
appreciate that.
when did you first realize that this wasn't stress or a rough season?
Um I think I really started feeling the pressure of all of this, like I said, in Florida when we weren't doing deployments as often. It wasn't like he was gone for an 8-month deployment, home for 4 months, gone for 10 months. Like it was like we were finally like in a place where there were no deployments and we were going to be here for 3 or 4 years. And so I actually got to spend more time than I ever had with him. And there wasn't anything to break it up. And, I started seeing him want to drink more or, just and as a spouse, you try to be like you just try to be understanding to, you're stressed, you've got work and you're trying to come down from that and you're trying to just relax. But hey, now you've just spent 2 days on the couch, the whole weekend on the couch, and I haven't had any break. And so I started building up that resentment and like this isn't fair. Like what are
Sell
my
me
boundaries
something.
in this? Yeah, like what are my boundaries in this? Like I now and so that's where the resentment and the bitterness and the hey, something needs to change is when we had to spend all that time together and there was nothing to break up our marriage time together and nothing to buffer. Maybe that's a good word, buffer what was really happening.
Now, did you notice at this point too that he's starting to choose alcohol over the kids, you, like that became a priority at this point?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I I wanted to talk about this because um I feel like I've had so many experiences. See, I'm like shaking just even talking about it because I feel like when I would reach out to help within like, families or military communities or our neighbors or anyone that we were friends with, and I would try to say, is this what your experience is? Because I don't drink. I'm a I process my pain at the gym. That's just and I don't like waking up and not feeling good, and so I just I that was alcohol was really just never a part of, like, my my life. But I would try to ask people, "Hey, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what my family's experiencing. Is that normal? Am I supposed to be feeling like this? Like, are my boundaries supposed to be this?" Like, I genuinely just didn't know. And a lot of the times, his friends would just say things like, he's stressed, he's got a lot on his plate. Just let the man come down. Just let him drink. Just let him, do all these things. And I had one experience that really shifted everything for me. Um, there was like this big, a lot of pressure from like friends to just let him come and party and let him do all those things. And so I said that's fine. I mean, I don't get to tell him if he parties, but go to your party. And within 45 minutes, I had a phone call. Hey, he is out of control. I just need you to can you come and get him? And I remember just sitting on my couch. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was 8 months pregnant with my 3rd baby, and I just thought, I shouldn't be doing this. Walking 5 houses down the street, it's cold, it's like January, and I said, "No, I'm not gonna come and get him. You guys can bring him home. You guys were the ones that wanted to party and have all this fun. This isn't fun for me. This is for you guys, it's fun." And I think that that's one thing that I've had to remember is, after my husband passed away from his overdose, I got, definitely some of his friends, military people, his family questioning, if I could have done something different, if we could have helped him support him more, all of that. And I have to remind myself that we're not talking about the same person. He is a different person for his mom, for my children, for me, for the service, like his friends. We are not all talking about the same person, and our experience with each other and all of this is not the same. He's a different person for everybody. Not like personality, but I'm just talking like role, like his
Right.
role as a child, like a son and military friend and a spouse and a father. And so I've really been able to kind of release that judgment because for them it was fun.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the fun party, we're all letting loose and just enjoying life. And for me and my family, it was not fun.
Right. Well,
And
and it's like you said, I mean, so marriage is a team, right? It's an
yeah,
us. And
it's your partner.
I would imagine that a lot of that resentment and bitterness turns into now I am raising another child, a man
It
child.
feels like that. It feels like you're managing it does. And I have to admit when you first asked me to do this podcast, I felt excited because I wanted my voice to I wanted I just I want my version matters and my kids and like our story matters, but I cried for several hours after because it is very vulnerable and it is very it the judgment behind all of this, whether you are the parent or the spouse or, friends, and everybody wants to grapple at like whose fault this is. And at the end of the day, it's nobody's fault.
Well,
It's
it can
it's
always
it's
be
a
that.
it's 100% his responsibility. I hold him 100% accountable for his life's experience. I'm not mad at his parents, I'm
Yeah.
not mad at his friends, I'm not mad at the military, I'm not mad at me, I'm not it's just, everybody has to process their own pain, and I think that really in Florida, that was the time where I was like, "Whoa, something's really wrong," and I didn't go and get him, and his friends brought him home, and, he fell along the way, and so when he got home, I woke up in the morning and there was blood all the way down my hallway carpet, and then, when you are drinking, sometimes you
Yeah.
know,
Don't make
this
great choices.
yeah,
And one thing that I can tell you is like, it's kind of that what came first, the chicken, the egg. Like, was I born an alcoholic? Do I like you made a post about the disease of alcoholism and stuff, and I like the way that you broke that down. And I know that I get backlash for this, and I know that it's written in all these books, and it's a disease and everything. I don't buy into the basic disease model that just my dad
I
or
don't
my
either.
was this and that's it. I think there's a nature and nurture to it. I think there's a lot. Now, did my mom dying at 6 mean that I was destined to be an alcoholic? Was because my dad was abusive and angry made me an alcoholic? I don't think so, but it definitely didn't help. With that said,
Yeah.
for the longest time, I lived in this place of being a victim. You don't understand. You didn't grow up without your mom. You didn't grow up with an abusive dad. You weren't in the military. You haven't been to prison.
Mhm.
And I used that for an excuse for so long until I had to start owning my own shit and go, you know what? Yes, some unfortunate things happened to me. I had
Yeah.
some less than fortunate experiences in life. What do I want to do about that? Do I want to sit in that forever and feel sorry for myself for the rest of my life or address some shit, have a little cry, talk about it, figure it out, and move on with life? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, so many people get caught up in that. And I think the other thing for me was like you said about the shame and the guilt. For me in the beginning, it was so shame. Who wants to say, "Hey, I'm an IV
Yeah.
heroin user"? Are you kidding me? I come from a nice town. I was a good hockey player. I'm a veteran. And I used that for so long of like, I'm a veteran first, and then I'm all this other shit.
Mhm.
But after so long, we're talking 5, 6, 10 years of me doing one than the other. That veteran shit, nobody really cares about that anymore because I've been a strung out junkie acting
So true.
not great for a little bit. Why? And I can't understand. How come you don't see me as a veteran? How come you don't see me? And it's like, well, man, you are not making good choices in life. What am I supposed to? I'm going by what is displayed, not by what is written on paper, you know?
Well, yeah, 100%. And I think that when we're talking about shame and guilt, I think, you know, getting back to there are so many things that I have really been triggered by, which I'm sure everybody, whether you are the addict or you are the spouse or you are the parent, or because addiction just carries this looming an elephant in the room that at the end of the day, it starts as a choice. Um, Nobody forced my husband to start, and why you choose to start is debatable too. Is it because you just wanted to have fun? You wanted to just genuinely try it? You were just curious? I don't think people start things because they want to eventually end up ruining their lives. And so I feel like there's this giant elephant in the room of like everybody knows. It's like everybody knows that it's a choice. But because we're human beings, our beingness part of us knows that we are not outside of each other, that we are all connected. Like I can see your pain. I can see what you have gone through, and I have compassion for that. I that's human nature. And so I feel like because of that, we try to soften or buffer things, or, of course he would make that decision, or of course, and then all of a sudden, I like what you said at the beginning of this um, podcast, that I feel like we do. I feel like we just talk about the addict, and when they do reach sobriety, it's like, you are amazing, and we're so
Way
happy
to
for
be
you.
normal for the day.
Yes. And as a family, as a spouse, like for us, it feels so dismissive because we don't get that. We don't get the gold star for hanging on for freaking life. Like we just get a we don't get anything really. And it's not that we want anything. It's a very it's a very
Well, but it's just like anything else where it's not that you need a gold star, but
no,
it's someone saying, "Hey, your feelings matter. Hey, how
your
this."
pain matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, and here's the irony. I was talking to my daughter about it. I was telling her I was doing this podcast today, because she has obviously seen the most and experienced the most. And I told her, I said, the hardest part for me has been that because we all know this elephant in the room, that I mean, we all know that addiction starts with a choice. You cannot refute that. Whether it turns into something that you are not processing normally, which is where my husband was before he passed away. I saw him 3 days before he passed away, and he was not the same person. I was terrified when I saw him.
It
When I
takes
saw
a
him,
toll.
I walked off and I thought, oh my God, like what is happening?
Yeah.
Because we found out he was taking meth and heroin too. And that had never been in the equation. And he had beautiful blue eyes, and he didn't even have color in his eyes anymore. It's like his soul was gone. And so choice and disease, both in my experience. That now people may not agree with that, and that's fine. But I do think it gets to the point. It can get to the point. It can get to the point where you are just no longer able to logically, emotionally, spiritually, physically make decisions that you normally would have had you not been on that. And
Well,
so but as a spouse, it feels like because people know that, it almost just feels like there's empathy and compassion, or there's compassion for the addict, but only so much because it is a choice. And so people have compassion for it, but they're also like, yeah, but don't do that. And then for the spouse, I feel like, or the parent, or I'm going to speak to the spouse. I can't speak from a parent perspective. So I need to back up. Just from a spouse perspective, a partner perspective, it also feels like you get that judgment of, well, if you don't like it, then just leave.
we'll get
And
to
if you're
that.
in pain, then that's your fault.
Yeah.
And stop focusing on the addict. What did you do to enable it? What did you do to be codependent? And I just want to reach through and just grab people, and just that's the most frustrating thing is when I started voicing it before my husband passed away for several years, trying to get help and getting into therapy and talking to people. And it always seemed to be that first question, which was, "Well, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I doing?"
Well,
I'm it's like all of a sudden, as a spouse, you become a part of this problem.
yeah.
It's
This
frustrating.
this is what I'll say to the disease part of it or whatnot is, it is a choice, and then I feel like what happens for an alcoholic or a drug addict is, you know how many times people are like, "Can't you just stop? If you love me, wouldn't you just stop?" I'm sure you uttered those same words. "If you love me, if you love the kids,
Yeah.
wouldn't you just stop?" How is it not that simple? And in our brains, we go, "Hell yeah, I
It
do."
makes logic. It's logical.
Hook me up to a lie detector test,
Yeah.
Cub Scout honor today, I quit, and then 2 days
Mhm.
later, I'm drunk or doing drugs going, "I don't
Yeah.
what happened?" And that's where I find it to be this mental situation. I have
Yeah.
something is going on in my brain, and I have this obsession, and that's what it was for me. When I had to
Mhm.
identify this thing, I obsess over using drugs and alcohol. It's what I crave. I want that. It's not that I don't love you, but the
Mhm.
sad reality is that I love drugs and alcohol more. And I loved
Yeah.
that relationship more, and I wasn't willing to leave that because it gave me comfort, it gave me peace until it doesn't, until I'm dope
Yeah.
sick, until I rely on it, and now all bets are off. My kids don't come first, my wife, nothing comes before the drugs, and that's where it starts to nobody understands. Aren't you? And then never mind being a soldier, being all these other things, and you're just telling yourself
Dad, yeah.
I am the toughest, strongest soldier in the world. I can get through this. Damn it. Time to toughen up and drink some water and put some duct tape on it. And then again, you're in the same situation,
Yeah.
bloody, pissing yourself, doing
Yeah.
drugs, going, I don't understand how I got here again. And that's where it
Yeah.
starts to go. That's where you come to another fork in the road. I have a choice. I either need to do something about my behavior. I'm not like the normal guy that can just drink on Friday and have a good time and tear it up,
Right.
go back to work on Monday. The party doesn't
Right.
stop for me. I have to
Yeah.
do something about that, or I don't. And I either lose everything and burn it to the ground or I die.
I 100% agree with that, and I think that, I noticed that, like, after my husband had passed away, like I said, mentioned earlier, everyone's grappling for answers, and everybody is, obviously, it was easiest to pin that on me that, that I should have done more or I should have done, something to prevent this. But once again, like you said, I think that the majority of my husband's friends and military service people, they could get up and go party or party and then move on with their lives. And that was not what was happening for our person. It's very different. And I remember distinctly one time my husband had wrecked my car drinking. Thank heavens it was just like a curb or what, like, well, I don't know what he hit, but my whole car was smashed in the front. And I was just like, what is happening? And I went and I, looked in his car. I remember showing a, a neighbor who did drink with my husband quite a bit and showing him my husband's collection stash, whatever you want to call it. And I brought him over and I said, I just need you to help me understand. Is this normal? And I showed it to him and he said, "No, no, that is not normal. Whose is that?" And I said, "It's Mike's." And he's like, "Joanna, he needs help." And I'm like, "That's what I'm trying to tell you." I'm like, "You guys are all telling me to like let loose and, don't." And I'm like, "But you guys, this is not, you're telling me like it's not normal. And I need help in all of this." And it's a very, it's
Do you
very,
think that's the
very
first
frustrating.
time? Do you think that's the first time that you felt heard? Like someone finally understood?
Yes, I do. I do feel like that was the very first time someone had actually said, "I hear what you're saying." And this, no, this is not normal. I drink a lot and he was in the military too, but I think he needs help. And it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because up until then, I felt like everybody was just telling me, don't nag him.
Yeah.
Just let him, come on, just and because I don't deal with a lot of, I didn't grow up in that environment, I knew I didn't like it. I knew what it did when he was drinking and drunk for a whole weekend or, and I knew that I wanted it out of my family, but I was trying to just be okay with it because everybody was telling me that it was normal and to be okay with it. But there was also something inside me that was like, this is just not what I think it should be. I want to speak to, since I've started talking about this over the last couple of months, like I said, the shame and guilt, not only for the addict, but for the family, is just, unless you've lived it, you have just no idea what that looks like or feels like. Um, but I have been like awestruck at how many thousands of people, women, have messaged me. Thank you. Thank you for saying something. I feel like I'm actually being heard. I feel like every time I read your story, it's me. It's like you're helping me heal. You're being a voice for what I've gone through. And it has been so healing for me to actually just talk about it and take myself out of isolation, which is ironic because addicts feel the same way, right? They feel like isolation, hide, don't show it, shame, guilt, all the things. But when nothing heals in the dark. And so you have to bring it to light. When you bring it to light, you have to examine it. You have to look at it. You have to look at everything. It's very painful. It's painful for everybody, but pain that is not understood is passed on. And that was being passed on to my children. And as my kids started to get a little older and they started being more aware of like what was happening, there was one incident that changed everything for me. And it was not the child that I thought that it would have been, because I would have imagined it would have been my oldest, Navy. We were in Spain at the time. I had 4 children. We didn't have Ava yet, my youngest, and COVID, nobody was going anywhere. And so I'd spent all day deep cleaning my house. I made homemade chicken noodle soup. I went to the store and got mint chocolate chip ice cream, and we were going to watch the new Marvel movie. And I thought, at least when everyone comes home from school and he comes home from work, I'm just like, can we just have this big family, like, and just, be together? And we all sat down. We had chicken noodle soup. We sat down with ice cream, ready to watch the movie. And my husband said, I'll be right back. And he left, and he was gone for, 10, 15 minutes. I thought, what is he doing? And he came back, and he sat down, and I knew. I just knew that
Drugs?
something, no, I think he's just drinking,
Oh, okay. Okay.
just chugging whiskey, just very hard liquor. And I looked at him and I said, really? We just kind of want to like, can we do it without that? Like,
Well, and then you also get in this place, and I know because I've been on the receiving end of this conversation of, can you ever do you have to be fucked up to be around us?
can we just be present? Because I really feel like the opposite of addiction is connection. It really is. And I think that he just really struggled connecting. And, and after I said that to him, he said some things that were just verbally so shocking. And the kids were all a part of it. And I was just so shocked that I went into my room and I shut the door and I just laid there because where do you go? We're in Spain. We have nowhere to go. And so I just retreated to my room and I heard this really soft knock at the door. And my back was not, I was laying on my bed and my back was not, my back was towards the door, and Eli came in, and he would have been 9 at the time. And he said, Mom? And I'm like, yeah, bud, what's up? And he's like, you can leave. And I genuinely thought that he was asking me, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go to the store? We can walk down to the beach. We live by the beach over there. And I said, no, I'm not up for going anywhere. Um, did you want to go somewhere? And he said it again. He said, you can leave. He said, I know dads aren't supposed to act like that. And then he shut the door and he walked out. And that was like our whole conversation. And I remember that was a turning point for me because we love him. Nobody wants the family to be torn apart. Nobody wants that. But when it does get to the point where things feel unsafe and we are absorbing, I feel like the difference in addiction between the addict and the family is that the addict is avoiding temporary pain, and the family is absorbing that pain to prevent long-term damage. It is unfair. It is unequal. And when I started realizing that his avoidance was us absorbing it, um, it's painful. It is not an easy decision to make to separate the addict from the family. Like that decision that I had to make after 16 years, after being together with someone for 18 years, married for 16 years, 5 children, that making that decision to finally say, I need you to go and deal with your addiction. Like we like literally cannot do it anymore. Was the most painful thing. It is not an easy decision. And I think that when people say things like, well, if you don't like it, then just leave. That is not, lives are intertwined. Children are born. You love this person because you see this person for who they are. And then when they take a drug or alcohol or whatever it is that they're taking, it completely changes them. I know that addicts know the pain that they're causing. I know that they know that. I know that my husband knew the pain that he was causing, not only himself and us. I don't think he was oblivious to that. But you're having to like choose a pain. Like getting sober, I'm sure I'm not an addict, so I can't speak to that, is not choosing happiness. It is choosing still a pain. And staying not sober is choosing a pain. And staying with an addict is painful and leaving is painful. Nothing about this is like choosing happiness over pain. And that's why it's so hard. Do I feel more joy and happiness and peace now? Yes. Did I after like leaving and then he passed away and then it has taken me 3 years to stop feeling so much pain. Still feel pain, but still. And so I wish that people would understand that like there's just a whole lot of pain. And at the end of the day, someone needs to process that. And if the addict doesn't process it, the family has to process it. And it is so unfair. It really is. It's just unfair.
I think the reason why a lot of people in addiction or recovery or whatever, why they struggle is because when you're in it, it is a very selfish thing. Addiction is a selfish, self-centered, nobody else's. So when you say, I know that they know we're in pain, yes, but what that does is send me
Oh,
further into shame and guilt of
mm-hmm,
why even try? I've already let everyone down. I'm already
mm-hmm.
hurting everyone. You're better off without me. If I just died, you'd be better off without me. Now, on the flip side is when you do decide to take some action and change. Now, guess what? There's nothing to numb. Now your eyes are
Mm-hmm.
open. You get to go, holy shit, man. I've really been bad to the people that care about me. And now I have to repair all this. And now I have to go right my
Yeah.
wrongs. And now I have to do things differently. And then that can make it like, I don't want to do that. It's too much. I'm
Yeah.
better off just being this version of who you knew I was, because then at least I'm not going to let you down. At least that's what
It's
you expect.
predictable.
Exactly.
It's
Predict.
certain and it's certainty and it's predictability. It's all of that. And from the family and the spouse's perspective, it's like we hear you. Like, we hear the addict, we hear it just it is going to take a tremendous amount of courage
Yeah.
to process
But you got
that
to
pain.
rebuild all this stuff.
You
Like
have to rebuild all of
I've
it.
talked
But
about this before. I had to regain trust. I don't get to just go, hey guys, I haven't done
no.
heroin for 30 days. Do you love me? We always loved you. That's not
Yeah,
the question. Do I trust you in my house? Do I
yeah,
trust you around my kids? No, you know?
yeah,
And it was like, I have to gain back trust. And then I have to also be willing to make an amends that doesn't look like this. Hey, I'm so sorry. You know how it is. It wasn't,
yeah.
that's bullshit. That is a
No,
bullshit apology. For me, what I had to do was go, hey, I know that I was unpresent. I know that the things I did, my behavior was completely out of line. If there's anything that I can do to right that moving forward, that's what I'm here to do. And I have to be
yeah.
willing to sit there with a finger in my face and watch somebody cry and watch somebody yell because, like you said, their pain fucking matters. What
Oh my
they went
gosh.
through
Yeah.
matters. And I don't get to now go, well, what do you mean? It's not that big a deal. It is. It's a
Mhm.
big deal. And I think this is
It's a
another
huge deal.
reason why we're having this conversation is because, like you said,
Yeah.
I got clean and people cheered for me when I got a year and people were like, you look so great and you look healthy and you look
Yeah.
all this, you know? But nobody's checking in with my dad to ask him what it
Yeah.
was like to sit in the ICU with me and watch my heart monitor go up and down on a thing because about to die in the hospital, you know?
Yeah.
And he just gets a pat on the back and goes, "Hey, man, we're so proud of Shane. We're really great that he's back on track." And it's like, so I
It's a
am really,
very frustrating place. Like I remember after yes, just feeling all of that from the family perspective, which is we have been absorbing all of this because someone is not processing it and someone is not taking care of it, and at the same time you just feel completely dismissed the entire throughout the entire process. And then when it's over, whether the relationship ends or someone dies or something some or the addict gets better, whatever situation the outcome is, the the people, the family, we will either get, in my experience, some judgment. Were you enabling? Are you being codependent? Are you working on you? Are you it's I'm like, well, I'm getting there. Let me get my kids off to school. I got to make some packets, got some laundry to do. Got, I got to go grocery shopping. I got to do all these things. And then, yes, yes, I'm going to work on me too. So thank you for reminding me
yeah.
to not work on the addict. I'll get there. Like, it is the most dismissive, frustrating thing. And I've had hundreds of women reach out to me and ask me, what should I do? And my answer to every single woman that has reached out to me is, you already know what you want to do. You just don't like the answer. So you are trying to once again validate what you're feeling. And I know that because I did the same thing. I asked dozens and dozens of people. I went to we did couples therapy, different therapy, military, like all the things. And I knew what I wanted to do. What I wanted was not be a part of that anymore. I loved him. I wanted him. But if having him meant also being with the addiction, then no, I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that anymore. And I think that that's what I've been trying to tell women is, when the person that you love, because this was one of the most frustrating things that people would ask me. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to support somebody through all of this, the family, we get asked a lot, like, well, what do you want? I want my husband back. I want peace. I want all of this to end. I want him to get better. I want the addiction to go away. Like, you have a laundry list of things that you want. But when the addict is preventing you from having what you want because he won't get sober or he won't process his pain or whatever it is, and you have to move into what you need. And those are two very different conversations. And what I needed was to remove myself and my children from that environment. Did I want to do that? No, not at all. What I needed was to create safety and certainty and security for my family. What I wanted was for him to do that for us.
Right.
Those are two very different conversations. And I feel like when you start having logical conversations like that, you'll make choices that they'll still be hard,
I think
but
it's very easy for someone who's never been in this situation to say,
ugh,
"Why wouldn't you just leave?" Or, "Why wouldn't you just tell
ugh.
him to get help?" Or, "Why wouldn't you just do this?" Right? And then I think it's
It's
even
like, thanks, Sharon. I wish I would have thought of that.
right, and I think it's even different for, somebody who's out there right now that's just married to an alcoholic or an addict, and they don't have children, because I feel
Yeah.
your barrier for bullshit and what you're willing to put up with is more. But when there's kids involved, and now you see that they're affecting you, and when you said that your son came to the door and said this thing about leave, was that the first time that any of them had kinda recognized this is not what most of the kids I'm going to school with are experiencing?
No, my older daughter, Navy, there'd been a couple different times that she had asked, "Is dad okay?" Hey, just different situations, but that experience with Eli was the one that moved me.
That was
That was the one that was, you have a 9-year-old little boy that knows, "Hey, what just happened here wasn't okay." And what I saw my mom have to go through was, I know, like, I can feel that that's not okay. And I need to tell her that that's not okay. And I would love to say, and here's, I don't want to cry over this, but like, I've had so many women say, I hope that I can get enough courage to do what you've done, or to voice, or to leave, or to do all these things. But I had to lean on a 9-year-old boy's courage. That's the truth. Like, I didn't feel brave at all. I felt fucking scared. And that's what addiction does, is it makes you question. It literally makes you feel like you can't trust your own thoughts, your own intuition, that what you're going through, yeah, it's painful, but be understanding, because he's going through more. And that's not the truth. Like, and I think that nothing, not I think, I know, I don't know everything, obviously, but I do know that nothing heals without truth for everybody. For me to heal, I have to tell my truth. For my husband to have healed, he would have had to experience his own truth. And that is painful. You're not swapping out happiness and sobriety for pain. You're swapping out a pain for a pain. And which one are you willing to sit with the longest? I left my husband 5 months before he passed away. And that was the most terrifying choice I have ever had to make in my whole life. And you're not choosing. Like, that's what people don't understand. I'm like, when people say things like, why don't you just leave? Or, well, what do you expect? If you're choosing not to leave, then you deserve that. And what people don't understand is, most of the time, we don't know how to be a single parent. We don't know how to be a single parent and still try to love someone through their addiction. We don't know how to do any of that. It's a very terrifying experience. And my husband was doing really good for about 3 months when I finally had the courage to say, we can't do your addiction anymore. Whatever pain you need to process, whatever you need to do, I'm behind you. I'm going to take care of these 5 human beings, try to eliminate any stress or whatever it is that you need to process on your own. And he was doing great. For about 3 months, he would send me podcasts he would listen to. He was going to AA like daily. And I don't think you have to go daily. I think you just have to go however many days you need to go, depending on you. But he was going daily. So excited. And I actually was like, oh my God, like this is going to happen. Like, we've got about a year till we retire in the military. I'm going to let my human, do his thing. Or not let him, but
Well,
like
now hold
support
on.
him.
When
Yeah,
he's
without,
when he's doing well on this 3 months, is this you had already told him to go, and now he's making
yes.
change? Okay, so
Yes. Yep. He had moved out of the house. And for the first time, I felt peace. I could get my kids off to school without worrying about anything. I could help them with their homework. I could go on walks. I could go to the grocery store without feeling like that was just looming over us. And it was great. Like, it was so awesome to have him feel like he was processing his pain. And I really think that sometimes separation can be very pivotal for the family, because if you can't get sober within an 18-year period with me, let's stop pretending that I have anything to do with this,
Mhm.
because it's been 18 years. So I actually don't have anything to do with this. That was kind of light bulbs for me, where I was like, wait a minute, my support and me in this, I think I'm just going to remove myself, because I'm drowning here. I feel like I'm dying. And, um, and then with out of the blue, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know, because he wasn't living at home. He was living with, in an apartment. He started showing up in life very differently
Yeah.
than he ever had. Completely different.
Well, I want to back up just a little bit here. So, what did you have to do to start keeping the peace that you thought you'd never have to do?
Like with my kids
You
and,
know, like in the house, like what were
oh,
some things that you started to do that you never envisioned you would end up having to be doing that, whether it was lying for him, whatever it was, like
oh yeah. Um, well, yeah, I mean, nobody wants to admit that their provider and their protector, which is what men are for a family, the foundation can't show up that way. I didn't want my kids to know. I would just say he doesn't feel good. He's sick. He's tired. There were multiple times where he was one time in particular that he was drunk for 4 days. It was probably the longest I'd ever seen in Hawaii, because I was worried that he wasn't even gonna go back to work. And I was like and I think that was part of my panic too, is what I was watching this person that I loved. They had this military career, and we were so close to retiring, and I did not want him to lose. I didn't wanna lose all that. I didn't want us to lose all of that. And so I felt like I would people will call that codependency. I'm like, I call that survival. I was still a healthy, functioning human being, even though he was not doing well. I That's not, to me, codependency. I think that there can be codependency within that, but to label people like enabling or codependent, it's survival mode. Like things that you're willing that you find yourself doing to just like keep everything together.
I mean, I guess that kind of goes into this next thing too, which is like, what lies did you tell yourself that felt necessary? Like, did you have to tell yourself lies in order to keep you kind of the engine running?
Yeah, I when I was telling you earlier that I think one of the hardest things as a spouse or a parent or whatever role that you are playing within all of this hell, let's call it for what it is, you question yourself. You question your humanity because as human beings, I think it's our inherent nature to be compassionate, empathetic, long suffering, resilient. We don't want to leave people behind. We're a military family. Like we bleed alongside people. We die for people. We go to battle for people. And and I found myself constantly saying things like, "Well, you don't leave people behind. God doesn't do that." And people would say, ugh, God, another one that people would always say is, "Are you praying?" I'm like, "Please stop asking me to no, Sharon, I haven't thought of that." Like, of course we're praying. And I think that that's where it all gets chaotic is, guess what? All of those things are true. Prayer works. God heals. God is there. Like all of those things are true. And so in your mind, you're just kind of like trying to pull apart like, well, all those things are true. So if those things are true, and if I pray enough, and if I hope enough, I believe enough, and I hold on enough, and God doesn't leave us, then this will eventually, won't it kind of come full circle? And you really it's not out of self-destruction, it's out of like the most beautiful characteristics that human beings have, which is love and compassion and empathy. But here's one thing now that I do know, that now that my nervous system has regulated and the dust has settled. When you start when you stop respecting or trusting someone, which is what addiction does, what replaces it is tolerance. And you think that it's love, and it's not. You become very tolerant. And I'll tell you what, women are very tolerant of pain. We have babies. That's painful. Like we do a lot of hard shit. Like we, as women, we are very tolerant of taking on and a lot of pain. And sometimes then we'll call that love. It's not love. When you have lost respect and tolerance because of what addiction does, it does become tolerance. And then you start to lose yourself, and then you question yourself, and then you shelf yourself to keep everything going to the point where you don't even trust yourself anymore, and you lose self-respect for yourself. It's like this one big combobulated mess.
Do you feel like as a woman and as a spouse that you also hold on to this idea of who somebody was or who they could be and I hope it'll be like it was. I hope that we can get
Oh,
back there, and I imagine that that's a big thing that keeps people in
yes.
situations.
You guys would have loved him. You would have freaking loved him. He's amazing. And you do, because you see people before addiction changes them. However, however, I've thought a lot about this over the last 3 years. I've thought if I ever got brave enough to tell my story, if I ever had enough courage to speak truth, like what would I want to say? And I think at the umbrella of all of it is that everybody has to choose themselves. We are we have so much desire for the people we love to choose themselves. Like I'm sure your dad, your family wanted nothing more for you to just just choose yourself, like love yourself. And if you were doing that and your dad was doing that, like if everybody was actually choosing themselves and protecting themselves and doing the best, we would all just be in such a much better place. I was asking my husband to do something that I wasn't even willing to do for myself. I am not sitting here on this Zoom call or this podcast with like all these shiny words of wisdom or like I genuinely have found so much humility in all of this because I was genuinely asking him, you and telling him, you matter. Like, how do you not understand this? You are essential. Choosing yourself is not selfish because you are essential. Because if you're not here, what is all of this? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what my kids think. It only matters what he thinks. And so self-love really is the only expression of love.
You know, I remember when things changed for me in my relationship with my dad the most was when he started going to Al-Anon. My dad
Mhm.
was a huge enabler. I was the kind of guy that would do, "Dad, I'm gonna go put a gun in somebody's face and rob them, or give me $40." He
Ooh.
doesn't want me to get in trouble. He doesn't want me to do that. Here's $40, you know? And I knew that. I'm a manipulating drug addict. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And all the shame and guilt that I felt with it, because like you said, I'm not stupid. I don't know that this isn't killing my father
Yeah.
inside, but I don't care because
Mhm.
the drugs come first. And I remember when he started going to Al-Anon, and I remember when I would call him and go, "I need money." And he'd go, "I can't help you, son. I love you. You can't live with me. You can't have any money. I really hope you get help." And I remember being so angry. "What are you talking about? Do you know what I'm going to go do?" And he was like, "I really hope you don't do that. I love you.
Yeah.
I'm ending this phone call." And I remember being like, "Huh?" And it was such a wake up call for me because here I am, just this selfish, everybody just, bow to me and do what I,
Me.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it really like, holy smokes, you know what I mean? Like he's really, and does that mean that he just went off into the distance and rode a motorcycle? And I was like, anyways, what are we doing today, guys? No. Went in his room and cried
Yeah.
and prayed that
Yeah.
hopefully I don't die. Hopefully I make
Yeah.
a better decision and he doesn't have to live with that, you know? And so I can relate to that a lot. And, so my advice also to people that are in this is I don't know if it has to be Al-Anon. I don't know, but talk to other people that
Yeah.
have been in the situation. Reach out to Joanna. Reach out to some people who have maybe not done it the correct way. There was a
Yeah.
time my dad wasn't doing it the correct way, and both ways were killing him. One way he chose to not participate in me killing
Yeah.
myself. You know.
Well, I think I love that. I'm so grateful that you brought that up because that was a turning point for a pivotal point for me too, is when I just detached from the outcome. And I finally just had to say, I don't know what he's going to choose. I hope to God that we don't lose everything and including him, but I'm just not going to, I just detached. It's not that you stop caring. Like you said, I was stressed. I was crying. My youngest was 8 months old. I was still nursing a baby, and there were times we didn't even know where he was, and it was the most catastrophic, like, couple of months, those last couple of months before he died. However, what we're talking about is, like, suffering, in my opinion. We're talking about suffering, and I think that, me trying to prevent my husband from suffering shielded me from suffering within it too. Because every time I tried to prevent his suffering or try to buffer it or try to absorb some of it so it wasn't so hard for him, I suffered too. And even though and once I stopped doing that, I remember the military called me one day and they said, Where is he? He hasn't showed up for work." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know."
Not my circus, not my
It's
monkey.
not, I don't know, and I will try to help you find him, but I once I stopped trying to absorb that suffering, did I feel pain? Yes, but I don't feel like I was suffering. It was like a different kind of, it felt very different. And I think that if the addict and the family could develop a better relationship with suffering, I think we would continue to feel pain because you're gonna feel pain when you're coming in sobriety and recognizing, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" And now I gotta and as a family, like, we feel pain, but pain and suffering are 2 very different feelings in my perspective.
So when your son comes and knocks on the door and says, "Mom, you can leave," was that a moment, or was there a moment that you knew staying would destroy you, and what finally outweighed hope?
That was my first moment where I was like, "Oh my god, I might have to make a choice. I might have to." Like, I still didn't want to. Still didn't want to, still wanted to hold on to that hope. About 6 months later, we had our 5th baby. We were not planning on this baby. We had this cute new little baby, Ava. She came, uh, 10 weeks early, very early. I almost died during that time. I had what's called placenta increta, where your uterus and your bladder grow together. So they had to fly me back from Spain to Utah to have this baby. I had to have a C-section from my belly button down to my pubic bone. It was my 5th C-section, but this time it was not horizontal, it was vertical. And I had to have a full hysterectomy because if you try to sever the uterus and the bladder, then I would bleed to death. So they basically gave me a 60% chance of not making that surgery. So I packed up my 4 kids and I came back to Utah. My husband came later. We had that baby. Today's her birthday. So I find that this is just very
Happy birthday.
divine. I'm not gonna say erotic, just divine, divine. We had her. She lived. She was in the NICU for about man, it was about almost 3 months. And I was able to survive, but I had to have a full blood transfusion, hysterectomy. It was very stressful. However, after that time, I was staying at my parents here in Utah. We had this baby in the hospital, and we moved back from Spain, and we were all kind of living with my parents. And I noticed my husband was not acting normal to, when I say normal, to like what addiction, like what alcohol had done to
Well,
him.
yeah,
Like it was
but
a
what
different,
was
it was like,
normal to what you had been seeing up until
mhm.
right.
It was different. It was like a different kind of high or low, like whatever. It was not the same. It was something was different, and my intuition was telling me something's not quite right here. And then it just continued to progress and progress and progress. And I just got to the point where I was like, I can't take care of 5 kids and you and this and me. Something has to go. Something has to give. And it's not going to be these 5 human beings because they don't deserve that. And for the very first time in my life, I said, and it's not going to be you, Joanna, for the first time. And it's not going to be you. And I don't think I'd ever chosen myself. I know I had never chosen myself. And that was pivotal for me. For me to say, Joanna, choosing you is not selfish because you're essential, because without you, what do these 5 kids have?
Mhm.
And I don't know why it took me 16 years to make that choice.
What was
It did.
what was harder, leaving him or staying as long as you did?
Leaving. Leaving because I remember talking to my sister, and I had made an appointment to go talk to a lawyer because I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to co-parent. Like, I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted my family. But when someone prevents you from having what you want, you have to move into different ways of doing things. But I remember her saying to me, this is very pivotal to me. She said, "Can I tell you something without you being upset?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm an open book. You tell me what you need." And she said, "You have been holding on." It was one of the most painful things I've ever heard, but she said, "You have been holding on to this white picket dream that has never been there from the beginning. It's been a complete lie from the beginning. And she's like, "Could you just have enough courage to just let it go?" And so when I say that, as the addict processing pain and truth, the family also has to process pain and truth. Everybody does. And I think, yeah, no regrets, zero regrets. I love my children. I have no regrets. People ask me that all the time. I'm like, absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Now,
I've learned so much. The person I am today is what I needed to learn.
now, when you end up leaving, what did that decision cost you socially, spiritually, internally?
I think it disrupted everything that I really felt like I believed about love, about marriage, about loyalty, commitment. It completely dismantled everything. It felt more painful to leave and to have to sit with all of that than it did to continue to avoid all of it. And so, just like an addict, I think going through sobriety as a family, whether it's a parent or I can't speak to parents, so as a spouse, we have to sit with our own pain too. And how did I do that for so like I look back down, I'm like, how? How did you survive for so long? When you have a regulated nervous system and you're living in peace and you're not dealing with that, wow.
I think this
I don't know.
I think the same thing is like I look back now and I go like, how did I ever even function or do anything in life? How did I just go, this'll work. This is good.
Yeah,
I'm cool with
this will work.
it.
I love that you brought that up. I remember I had a mentor. He was amazing for me. But I remember he said, "Joanna, you will continue to suffer in all of this." This is after Mike had passed away. And he said, "You're going to continue to suffer in all of this as long as you keep thinking something is wrong." He's like, "Nothing is wrong. Life is as it should be. Life played out the way that it should have. And until you accept that, you will continue to suffer in all of this.
Mhm.
Nothing is wrong. There are things that either work and things that don't work." And he's like, and if you can, because I think that sometimes, and I want to emphasize that because there are a lot of women right now feeling like if they lose or like if they leave or if they choose themselves and their kids, that they're doing something wrong. Or if they stay, they're doing something wrong. Like there's this right or wrong, like there's this moral high ground. And I think that for me, when you can look at it as what is happening right now is not working. It's just not working. And if it's not working, then I need to make different decisions because it kind of it puts people in this villain space and this like hero space. So it's
Yeah.
just like, and that's where things get like awful for each other. And I think for me, it was much easier to just say things like, what he life is not right or wrong. Like what we experience isn't just right or wrong. It's just what he chose didn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for families, relationships, and it doesn't work for yourself. When you do drugs, it just doesn't work.
I
And
think
because it doesn't work, then things will fall apart. And one of the best things I ever did is what your dad did. Let it fall apart.
Mhm.
And I know that that is so terrifying because you can't control what the addict does.
Yeah.
But when I finally made a choice to just say, "Joanna, let him choose. Let him do whatever he needs to do."
Well,
It's safe.
here's another unpopular opinion is that I feel like we're too coddled. The addict, the mental health world, it's like, "You poor thing, and come
Mhm.
here and stay sick forever," and, "Oh, I understand." It's like, and for me, it was broken down. I had a few people throughout my sobriety that I'll never forget things they said, and I had this one guy say to me, "Shane, life doesn't happen to you. Life just happens. That means good things
Mhm.
happen to shitty people, shitty things happen to good people. Stop taking
Yes.
it so personal." And it
Yes.
didn't ring when he said that. I wasn't like, "Oh my god, this light went off." But the more that I listened and thought about that, and I was like, "Man, you know what? Like he's right." And where was I?
It's true though.
And then I have this saying that a guy said to me too, "You want to be right or you want to be happy. You can't be both."
Yes.
And for me,
You cannot have both.
it was way more important for me to be right all the time. You
Mhm.
don't understand because my mom died. You don't understand because this. And people go, you're right. He was like, look, if I open the news tomorrow and find out that you stabbed 7 people and they go like, what happened? And you go, oh, some kid said to fuck you. Your mother has AIDS or said something. You go, I get it. You're right. I understand. Or you choose to like make different outcomes because you choose happiness over being
Yeah.
right, you know?
Oh, I think so much of it is reaction to life, like how we react to life. Are we receptive and open for feedback, and are we how we react to life is everything. And I learned in my marriage to be reactive to, oh no, he's not doing well, so um to keep all of us doing okay, let's just make some pivots. And once again, people call that codependency, and you can name it for whatever you want, but I I feel like it's survival, and I feel like, um, how you react to life sucks, it's so hard, I'm a victim, it's not my responsibility, all these things, it's
I work with a lot of people now, and I know that my approach is not for everybody. But the way that I look at it is like this is like, I'm down to do the kid gloves, right? Come here. Let's bring it in for a hug. It's
let's give you
awful.
a hug.
All those
Yeah,
things are awful. Now let's get to fucking work, right?
yeah.
Because that's it. Here it is. This is the truth. This
Mhm.
is what's going on for you. These are the patterns. These are the things that I recommend you start to
Mhm.
take a look at, feel, get upset, get angry, get sad,
Yeah,
all that shit. Because if you don't, and you just keep going on, and I feel like that's a huge problem in like this
yeah,
mental health field now is like, it's just, I don't want to lose a client. I don't want to upset you. I don't want you
yeah,
to leave because, in all my years of doing breath work, there was one time when I worked in a treatment facility that this kid was like, I'm leaving. It was breath work. And I'm like, it wasn't breath work, dude. You just needed an excuse. You were already one foot
yeah.
out the door. And because I made you feel uncomfortable and made you kind of talk about some real shit, that was
It's
enough for you. And off
yeah.
you go. I can live with that, dude. I don't think that's what you should do. I don't think you should leave, but it's on you. And that's the only time ever in, 10 plus years of doing this. But anybody
But
need
don't you think, though, I mean, don't you genuinely think that at the core of our human nature, we wanna be challenged? We want those questions because that's freedom. Like, taking 100% accountability for your life is freedom. Even the things you don't like, the things that you created, the things that you do like, the things that you did create, like, but when you know that you're at the heart and core of all of it, that's empowerment.
I
And
think it
I
also unfortunately, it's like you gotta be in this place where you're ready to do that because otherwise
you do,
run. You're gonna
you
run.
do.
You're gonna go.
Yeah.
For me, it was, you mean to tell me that I have to sit down and look at me and look at all the times I've been shitty? What about how shitty my dad was? What about
Mhm,
how shitty this kid was at school? What about the prisons, the way they taught? What about
mhm,
my sergeant? That's all I
mhm.
wanted to do was, what about all of them? And when I
Yeah,
started to write some shit down and look at it, and I was like, geez, man, I kind of have not been the best participant in all these relationships.
yeah,
Maybe I should take a step back and look at some of my behavior. And that's a
yeah.
hard thing to do. And that's
It's
why a
very
lot of
hard.
people have trouble getting sober or getting their shit together because it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to put the mirror here, break the mirror. I don't want to, you know how long it took me before I could look myself in the mirror and not be like, you are a raging piece of shit. Do you know that?
Yeah,
You know? And
yeah.
so, it's, man, this thing, the bad news is that addiction, mental health, none of this shit is going away. We're not going to eradicate it.
No.
It's not going to be healed. And it's a tough thing. I watch people struggle all the time. And I wish that I could just give them what I have. I wish I could tell them,
Yeah,
all you got to do is this. I watch people come into, I do an online meeting that I run every week.
yeah,
And I watch these people come in week after week and they got a new day count and they're back again and they're new again. And I'm going like, but I also get it. That was me. That was me going, I don't understand. Hook me up to a lie detector test, a Cub Scout out, and I want to get
yeah,
sober, but I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. And
yeah.
it's a
Well,
very,
don't you think that, like, um, our level of healing will really come down to the amount of truth that we can accept? And sometimes you're available for it, and sometimes you're not. I
well,
remember
accountability
after
is scary.
It's very scary, but your level of healing will come down to the amount of truth that you can accept. And I remember my mentor one time said to me, this was after Mike had passed away, he said, "Joanna, why did you choose what you chose? Like, why did you do what you did?" And I said, I just wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to just, I felt like if I kept the peace long enough, then eventually it would be peace and we would be on the other side of this. And he said, "All the while, and you felt what?" And I said, "No peace." I felt no peace. And it really has not been, even for me, to process all this, to like, I have to take accountability for the suffering that I did choose in this. I have to take accountability for the lies that I did tell myself, which caused me to experience what I experienced. Um, but I don't call that, I'm not going to go down that road. I remember telling my children, I've had a couple women say this too, like, what did you tell your kids? I remember telling my kids after my three older, because my two younger were, Lexi was 3 and Ava was 8 months old when Mike passed away. But I did tell my 13-year-old, my 10-year-old, and my 8-year-old. I did tell those three. I said, "I don't know what this looks like. I have never been a single mom. I have never lost a husband. Like my husband just died. Your dad just died. I don't know. I've never done this before. You have never been in this position either." And so I think it's good for all of us to not have expectations for each of us for any of this. I don't expect any certain behavior from you. I expect you to, other than to feel what you need to feel and experience what you need to experience, whether you're angry, you're upset, you're sad, like whatever you need to feel. And then you have to, though, decide if this will make you bitter or better as you continue to get older. You will get to decide down the road, my dad did all this and my family experienced this, therefore I get to show up this way. Therefore, I get to be this way. Or you can choose to be better and use it as impact. And I think that that's what has really helped me and my family. Me and my children, we just have honest conversations. We do. We just have honest
How
conversations.
did you explain it to the oldest when he passed?
Um, we actually buried him, and he died on August 12th, and we buried him, and she turned 13 the very next day. And that's a young age, but she still had seen, quite a bit. And luckily with just alcohol and not like whatever he was taking towards the very end. But I do remember about a year after about a year after he had passed away, she'd gone all through 7th grade. And it was at the very end of the 7th grade, and she kind of I picked her up one day for school, and she got in the car and she shut the door and she just started sobbing. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "No, Mom, I'm not okay." I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, and she just let it out for like 45 minutes. And I just sat there and I just listened to her. I didn't give her any feedback. I just listened. And she said, "Nobody in my school knows that my dad died. Nobody." And I said, why does nobody know that your dad died?" And she said, "I don't want anybody to know." "Why don't you want anyone to know?" She said, "Because that is so embarrassing that he died the way that he did." She said, "I've had a um, couple people had asked her," and she's like, "And I just said that he's sick." And I'm like, "That's true. You don't have to give any other explanations other than that." But I let my kids process their pain at the level that they're at the age that they're at, that their nervous system can handle it. I'm having obviously different
Yeah.
conversations with her than I am like
Right.
my
Right.
3-year-old, but they're all processing it at different stages.
But I mean, they have an idea that this was due to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have full conversations about that.
How did grief show up for you since addiction was involved? Since this wasn't just old age, it wasn't a freak accident, it wasn't a deployment. Would any of those things made it? I don't know that easy is the right word, but
You mean grief like during the entire thing?
after he passed.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. How someone dies matters. Uh, it does. How someone dies matters. And um, I have never been more pissed in my whole life. I'm
That's
just
what I
going
was
to
gonna
say,
what emotion surprised you? Anger?
oh, oh, just so much anger. Just like how on earth could this have been your rock bottom? Like and that's one thing I learned is everyone just has a different rock bottom and everybody, um, so pissed, angry that I've had to pick up 5 little human beings and do all that on my own. Um, I remember, we did the funeral and you're so sad and so devastated. And I wanted to speak about all of these amazing qualities and the things that made me love him at his funeral, which I did. I did that. But the other side of it was just, I didn't want to be there because I was so angry. It is a very polarizing place to be. And I told myself if we talked about that, I would sugarcoat it or buffer it or anything. It's very, very polarizing.
How do you hold compassion without rewriting the truth?
I let his pain be valid too. Whatever he couldn't process, it's valid. It matters. There's some things from his childhood that I remember when he told me one time when he was drunk, I had no idea that he had gone through that. So, whatever he was going through matters, and whatever he couldn't process is okay. I don't try to go back and say that things are right or wrong. I just let it be. And I have felt him so much in the last 3 years helping me. And I genuinely know that like if he was here, if anyone said anything judgmental towards me, he would like punch him in the face. I mean, it's very serious. There were letters that he wrote before he passed away that were very just days before he passed away that spoke to his acknowledgement of, I cannot believe that I've chose drug and alcohol over my family. How could I let the person I love the most hold all this pain and take care of my kids while I'm over here drinking and getting high? How could I do that?
We always feel like we'll have more time.
Yeah, you always do. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And a year passes and you go, how the fuck am I
Yeah.
still doing that? So
How? Yeah.
how do you do it, Joanna? How do you keep showing up for 5 children? Not just have no choice, obviously, but how do you stay present? How do you keep showing up for 5 kids when you're so depleted after all of this? Early on, too, not right now. Like when this first happens, how do you not just shut down and say, I'm out of answers?
I think the end. Well, I mean, I have a wonderful family. My mom and dad. I have sisters, brothers. I do have a lot of people that love me. So if anyone's out there that does watch this, that does know me, a lot of support, a lot of support. However, even with support, you do know that you still have to carry what you have to carry personally as an individual. And I think that, for me, I think allowing myself to fall apart was the best thing that I could have ever done for my nervous system. For me to actually just like lay on the pantry floor with the door closed and just say, "Oh my God, I'm so fucking scared. Like, I don't even know how to do this." Like, I, I, I'm terrified to even walk outside that door and pretend that I have anything together financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. But I think that letting everything fall apart is sometimes the best thing that can happen because you can come down to ground zero and then you can pick up what pieces you do want to take and what you will no longer are a part of whatever you built that you felt was safe, that I let everything fall apart. And I think that was the best thing because then I could literally look at everything and just say, I'm taking this with me and this with me and everything else. I just gonna let it go. Fitness is a huge thing for me. I cry a lot at the gym. I'm sure people are like, girl, if you don't like working out, don't do it. Why are you crying? You don't have to be here. But I work out like 6 days a week. That's always been my thing. I was a personal trainer and a fitness coach even before I met my husband. And so that has always been my outlet. is the gym and releasing energy, at the gym. That's always been a huge thing for me.
What have your kids taught you about resilience that no adult ever could?
Um, I think my greatest lesson has been from Eli because you feel so unseen and so unheard. And somehow along the way, you decide that your life experience, your pain doesn't matter as much. And so, for that day in Spain, for him to say that was him saying, "You can choose you. You can choose us. You can choose you." Um,
What do you wish addicts understood about the people who love them?
you're not hiding. People lie all the time. We say things that we don't mean, and we don't say things that we should say. We lie all the time. All of us do for different reasons, with good intention, maybe even. But energy doesn't lie. Energy never lies, and we can feel your pain. And whatever you're avoiding, we are absorbing. And that is the truth. And
I think that's
if
really
you
important to hear. I wish I had heard that early on. And maybe I did, but I really, for an addict, it's like so hard to see. What do you mean this is affecting you? And
oh my God.
to hear it voiced like that of like the pain that you're deflecting, we're absorbing that's
Yeah, because if energy is not created or destroyed, that means we are simultaneously giving it and absorbing it to other people. Like, and you're not hiding. Like, we know you're in pain. We feel it. We're experiencing it. And if you would just live in your truth, like if my husband would have just lived in his truth, which was that he was amazing and he was a protector and a provider and someone who loved community and he would bleed for people and die for people. That's why he was in the military. That's if he would have lived his truth, that he was so awesome, he would not have lost himself. Like, just tell the goddamn truth. That's seriously like, tell the truth. The truth is you're in pain. Okay, why? What don't you want to feel? Well, I bet what you don't want to feel is what you're feeling and what you continue to recycle because what you resist will persist. What don't you want to feel? I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to feel like I'm failing my family. I don't want to feel like, well, guess what? Then that's everything that you're feeling and everything that you're avoiding and resisting. We feel, we carry. I genuinely want addicts to just do their work and to understand that you are the most important person. And that if you really understood that, you would see that it is the least selfish thing you could possibly do and that you're essential. And I think if my husband would have embraced that, I know if my husband would have embraced that, we would be in a completely different situation. That is the truth. And so I don't blame anybody but him. And I want people to stop blaming me or my kids or the military or pain, whatever it is. That's what I want to say. That's literally what I would want to say.
what responsibility do you think gets avoided in recovery conversations?
What responsibility do I think is avoided
Mhm.
in conversations with recovery? The truth. I think we do everything to soften, to buffer, because you don't want to, upset anybody. I think that the real, once again, nothing heals in the dark. Everything has to be brought to light. Everything. And I think that sometimes we try not to do that and we try to take on pain or try to place it in different places um, to try to make it easier for that. Why should it be easy? Here's a concept. Maybe it shouldn't be easy. Maybe it should be really fucking hard.
What worth having is ever easy.
Yes. Like maybe it should be the hardest thing that you have ever done. And it should take you to the depths of darkness or hell or whatever you need to do to find yourself and accept yourself and love yourself and come back to yourself. I think that's what healing is. And I really think that we try to make it something other than truth. I really believe that quote, that saying, the truth will set you free. I've only started feeling free from finally telling the truth. That's it. And there are parts of it that I love and parts that I'm like, "Fuck, I hate that. I hate that that's what happened. I hate that that's the outcome. I hate I hate still seeing people post online their family pictures of the same person that they were with, that they started their family with. I hate that. I hate that I prayed and my prayer didn't save it, didn't save him. Like, there's so many truths that I hate, but just say it. I really think that that's where healing starts. And as long as you resist what you don't want to feel and the truth that you don't want to be brought into the light, the shadows that you don't want to see about yourself, you will continue to stay stuck. And your family will absorb all of it. And when I started seeing my kids absorbing pain that was never theirs to carry, I had to choose a different pain. Because I knew I either had to live with that pain, knowing that that's what was happening, trying to save somebody else. So I had to choose a different pain. Wasn't choosing happiness. But I'll tell you what, I feel a hell of a lot better since I've just started telling the truth. And whether people like it or not, I have to be okay with that.
Well, thank you for that. I also agree. I feel like, I tell people that I work with all the time, and this is not me a holy than thou because it applies to me as well, is that there's sometimes that I used to think for the longest time, I don't want to tell you the truth because it's going to hurt you. When in reality, me lying and deceiving hurt 10 times more because, especially me, I'm a spokesperson for don't make me feel like an idiot. And that's all I would do was make people feel stupid, question themselves, make them
Yeah.
feel crazy. So I found now that, like, you know what? I know that this is going to be brutal and I know that this isn't going to pay off and it's going to suck. But honesty is the best policy.
It is,
Honesty,
and it is as equally painful for even for me, and I wasn't even the addict. I did not sign up for this battle. I did not sign up for this war. I really feel like I was drafted into a war that I did not even want. I had no business fighting. I had no skills. I had nothing. It's like all of a sudden I was just at the front lines,
Mhm.
and it's a terrible place to feel and be. But at the same time, I still personally have had to do levels of healing too, where I'm like, Joanna, you know that that's not what love is. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you choose that? Or truth is just really confronting yourself and dear addict, you're not hiding. Everybody knows that you just don't want to face yourself. I'm sorry. It's what it is. I'm sorry that there's pain. But if you don't process it, we do. That's just the truth.
What does peace look like inside you today?
Peace looks like acceptance. Peace isn't loving everything. I still feel like there's a void and a hole. I'm missing someone. However, peace looks and feels like acceptance. To just let things be. I have no regrets. I'm grateful I left. Can I say that? I'm grateful I left.
Of course.
I'm grateful my kids saw me choose me and them at the end. Even though it took me a really long time, they at least witnessed their mom choosing them and her at the end.
What kind of woman emerged from this?
Oh God. I feel like I used to hate it when people would say, "You're so brave. You're so strong." I would get so annoyed. I would get so annoyed. And I remember asking myself one time, I'm like, why do you hate that? Because I think what I value over strength and being brave or courage is just truth. I just want to tell the truth. I think if I could have told myself the truth a long time ago, I wouldn't have suffered for as long. And so for me, I think that the woman that has come out of this is someone that has been able to find conviction in what she actually what do I value? Because for me, before I think I valued endurance and resilience and loyalty and commitment and or what I thought all of those things were. But now I just would rather tell the truth, even if that means losing people, because I am not going to lose myself ever, ever again. I choose myself first. And I think that if that is the lesson that being married to that amazing human being taught me, because I love him, is that there is a cost for not choosing yourself. And I hope that the lesson that I taught him was that he was worth fighting for.
I got a couple more questions and we'll get you out of here. All right. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I keep crying.
Nah, listen, you don't have to apologize. That's what we want. You know what I mean? Feel it, feel. All right. So now we're on this is the fucking I am Joanna
Okay.
Emmy Raw. What do you say to a woman still living inside this hell right now?
You're going to feel like choosing yourself is wrong, but it's what you have to do. You already know that. That's why you keep asking everybody. You're looking for permission to choose yourself. You already know what you want. Don't think too much about where it can go. I even had to do that. I even had to say, look, we're going to separate. I gotta take me and my kids over here and you gotta be over here. Maybe it will work out down the road. I don't know. But just detaching from knowing where it was going to go, but just choosing myself is what I would say. Choose yourself. And it's gonna feel wrong. You already want to do it because you keep asking everybody to validate what you already know. It just feels wrong and it's not.
If your kids listen to this one day, what do you hope they hear between the lines?
I hope that they know that they did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And that I had to borrow their courage. And that should show them the strength of their souls and their hearts. We may not love everything or like everything that we've been through, but love is still at the heart and core of all of this. It really is. And they know that because we're doing that every day. We're becoming better. We're not bitter.
My kind of slogan for this podcast is the hard way home. So this has been your hard way home. So what does home look like for you now?
Me. Home is me. It's not with anybody else. I am trust. I am loyalty. I am commitment. I am the safe place. I am love. And because of that, I don't have to trust that outside of myself. And that took me a very long time to understand. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, you guys make it so hard. Alex. So funny.
yeah. Deep breath.
Yeah.
We did it. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, Joanna Miranda, thank you so much. You can find Joanna online. I will tag her in the episode, but it's at gogether_academy. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for coming on and agreeing to this. Thank you for being a voice for so many women and so many people that try to love insane human beings like myself. And please keep doing what you're doing. Keep using your platform. Keep going out and talking about this. Get the message out there and have a voice.
Thank you.
Yes. That's it. We will catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.